Hey, it's Coach Reeves here again today. Today we're going to learn about graphing and transformations of absolute value equations. First thing we're going to start out is your parent function. This is your parent function of y equals the absolute value of x. And we're going to a little t-chart to show you what's going on to how we got to the parent function and the parent function's graph. This is my x values. These are my y values. Bring this up just a little bit. What is the absolute value of -2? If I put a -2 right here, what is the absolute value? You would tell me it's a +2. The absolute value of a -1 would be a +1. The absolute value of 0 would be 0. The absolute value of 1 is 1, and the absolute value of 2 is 2. So if we go over to the graph and we plot these points at -2, +2, -1, +1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, my graph would look like that. It's a V, and that's the graph of an absolute value function. That's the parent function right there. And everything we're going to feed off of is that guy right there. We're going to make some adjustments. We're going to transform it. We're going to move it up and down, left and right, make it skinnier, make it wider or flatter, but we're going to move it around. Okay? So the first transformation we're going to do is we're going to put a negative sign in front. And when we put a negative sign in front, we're going to call this a vertical reflection. Now it's going to be a vertical reflection over the x-axis. And when we graph this, it's going to end up looking just very, very similar to our original problem. But we're going to end up going at -2, -2, -1, -1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and then 2, -2. My graph is going to open up downward. So it's very, very similar to the parent function, but all we did was we reflected, or we folded it over downward over the x-axis. So we call it a vertical reflection. So anytime that I see a negative sign in front, that tells me that I'm going to open downward. I'm going to have a vertical reflection. Okay, let's go to another one. Now this is the equation we're going to work off of. This is our standard equation, and right now we're going to talk about the variable k, or the back number. This is going to tell me if we're going to shift up or down. This back number tells you if we shift up or down. So the equation we're going to look at is our absolute value, but at the very back end, my k value, this is my k number, is a +2. And if it is a +2, if it's a positive number, we're going to shift up. We're going to call this a vertical shift up 2 units. That's the transformation from our original parent function, from our original graph. We're going to shift it up 2 units. So we would go up 2 units, and we would start right there. We're going to shift up 2 units. And then we're going to do our normal parent function. We're going to say -1, 1, -2, +2. +1, 1, +2, +2. And my graph is going to look like my parent function, except it's just shifted up 2 units. Okay? What if we had this situation? What if instead of a positive, we had a negative? Well, if this is a negative, we're going to shift down. We're going to shift down 3 units, and we'll call this a vertical shift down 3 units. So what does that mean? Well, it's the normal V shape, but we're going to go down 1, 2, 3 units, and then we're going to do our normal pattern. We're going to have our original. We're going to say to the right 1, up 1, to the right 2, up 2, to the left, to the right 1, up 1, to the right 2, up 2. We're going to have our original V. It's just been shifted down 3 units. Simple enough. The back number past the absolute value, outside of the absolute value, it's going to tell me if I go up or it's going to tell me if I go down. That's what we're going to do. And what letter is this? My K value that is past the absolute value will tell us if we shift up or down. All right, so now we're going to move inside the absolute value. It's going to tell us if we shift left or right. It's going to be a horizontal shift, but we're going to move left or right. The crazy thing, what happens, and we're going to say this, I'm going to put this up there. When you're thinking inside these absolute value, I want you to think about the word opposite. And when we start to graph this, you're going to understand why I'm saying, why is he saying opposite? Just watch for a second, you'll understand what's going to happen. And it's a head scratcher, but it's okay. So we're going to move left to right, okay? And since we're going to be inside the absolute value is going to be a horizontal shift. We're going to say this is a horizontal shift. Now this is the tricky part. You would think that a +3 would go to the right. But what's crazy about this is this +3 is going to shift to the left. It's going to go to the left 3 units. So what I tell you is when we go inside here, because this is a negative h, but I'm telling you, when we're inside, we're going to think the opposite. So if this is a plus sign, we will go left. If it was a minus sign, we would go to the right. So this says to go left 3 units. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, put our dot. And then we're going to do our normal, our regular pattern for our parent function. We're going to go left 1, up 1, left 2, up 2, right 1, up 1, right 2, up 2. And the only thing that has changed is we have this +3 and we made a shift to the left 3 units. Okay? Keep going. What if I had a -4? Well, we just talked about this. We're still thinking opposite. And so a -4 will take us to the right. So we're going to call it, we're going to say the transformation is a horizontal shift right 4 units. That's the transformation. What does the graph look like? Okay, so we're going to go to the right. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to just shift to the right 4 units. And then we do our normal parent function pattern. Left 1, up 1, left 2, up 2, right 1, up 1, right 2, up 2, and then we have our V. Okay? Moving forward. Now we're going to have our A value that's in front. We have an A value that's in front of the absolute value that's going to talk about, it's going to be a vertical change, and it's going to either be a stretch or a shrink. Now we call shrink or compression. These mean the same thing. And depending on which resource you look at, which textbook, which computer you look at for a resource, some people call it a vertical shrink. Some people refer to it as a vertical compression. Okay? Now we're going to talk about vertical changes. Now here's the thing. I like to use a rubber band. Hang on just a second. Okay, sorry, I'm back. If I have a rubber band, this is a rubber band. If I stretch it vertically, it's going to get skinnier. But if I compress it and push it down, it's going to get wider. Kind of like when you were a little kid and you played with Play-Doh. And if you squeezed Play-Doh, it would get wider and flatter. So if we have a vertical stretch, we're going to get skinny. If we have a vertical compression or a shrink, we're going to get flatter or wider with our graph. So watch this. We have the number 3 in front. If our number is greater, if our A value, and we're talking about the absolute value of your A value, but if your A value is greater than 1, if you're bigger than 1, it's going to be a stretch. Since 3 is bigger than 1, we're going to say that it is a stretch. And we're going to call it a vertical stretch. And we have to say that it is by a factor of 3. We're going to get a vertical stretch by a factor of 3. Now notice there's nothing inside, there's nothing at the back, so we're not going to go left or right, we're not going to go up or down, we're just going to stretch it. We're going to stretch it and make it skinny. Now here's the neat thing about absolute value, and it only works with absolute value. We can use slope. You've already graphed a line in your, so you know what's going on. We can treat this as slope. We can treat this as 3/1, okay? So what we can do is we can say, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, up 3 to the right 1, or we can go the other way too. It's a plus or minus, so we're going to say 1, 2, 3 to the left 1. And our graph has gotten skinnier because we're stretching it vertically. Okay? Now, you change your front number, you change your A value, you put a little 1 under there, and you can use slope. You can graph it as slope. Okay? What if we have a situation that is less than 1? Remember now, if you're greater than 1, we're going to call you a stretch. 1/2, that is less than 1. So if my A value is less than 1, we're going to call it a shrink, or we're going to call it a compression. And since we are less than 1, we're going to say over here our transformation is a vertical compression by a factor of 1/2. How does that look? Remember, we said we could treat this as slope, like we were graphing a line. Now, there's nothing in the middle, and there's nothing at the back end, so we're not going to go left or right. We're not going to go up or down. We're just going to start right here at the origin, and we're going to do the slope. And it says to go up 1 to the right 2. Up 1 to the right 2. Now, remember, you have to go both directions. You just can't go to the right. You have to go up and to the left. So you have to go up 1 to the left 2. Up 1 to the left 2. And my graph, since it's less than 1 and it's a compression, it's a little flatter than my original parent function. Okay? So that's how it looks. Now, where are you going to find this? Remember, this is your A value. It's in front of the absolute value. So what do we have? We have A, we have the middle stuff, and we have our K. We have our H and we have our K. Let's talk about this. If we get a minus sign in the front, do you remember what we called it? We said if you have a minus sign in the front, all right, we're going to call that a vertical reflection. What about the green part? What is the A value? We were talking about the absolute value of the A part, and the A part would tell us if we had what? If we had a vertical stretch or a compression. What about the blue part? The blue part inside, the actual inside the absolute value. It's going to tell me if I go left or right. And that is the horizontal part that moves. So we're going to say on the blue part, it's going to tell us if we have a horizontal shift left or right. Okay, and the back end. The back end, the K value. What did we say that was going to do? It's going to tell us if we go up or down. And up and down is also vertical. So we're going to have a vertical. The K part will give us a vertical shift up or down. Now, hopefully you're at home, you're looking at this, you can take a picture or you can pause it, do a screenshot, but you understand that if the negative sign shows up, it's a vertical reflection. The A value, depending if A is greater than 1 or A is less than 1, you'll have a stretch or a compression. In between the absolute value is going to tell you if you're going to go horizontal one way or the other, left or right, and the back number, the K value, is going to tell you if you go up or down. So we have an equation here, and we're going to list the transformations, and then we're going to graph it over here on our coordinate plane. Okay, let's think about this. I have a negative sign. What did a negative sign tell us? It tells you, this tells us that we're going to have a vertical reflection. Look at my A value. My A value right here. Is it bigger than 1? Is it less than 1? 1/4. All we're looking at is the absolute value. Remember where we said we're going to take the absolute value of the A value. The absolute value is 1/4. But is that 1/4 less than 1 or bigger than 1? It's less than 1, so we're going to have a vertical compression by a factor of 1/4. Now we're inside the blue. We're doing inside the absolute value. We're in this part right here. And if you remember, we asked you to think about opposite right here. Inside the absolute value, we're thinking opposite. So that says x minus 6. Which way do you think we're going to shift? Think about the opposite. So this is going to tell me to shift to the right 6. So we're going to have a horizontal shift. Right 6 units. Okay? And now we're at the back end. We're over here at the back end. That's our K value. If you remember, that's our K value. It's going to tell us if we're going to go up or down. And since it's a -1, which way are we going to go? We're going to go down 1 unit. So we're going to say we have a vertical shift. Down 1 unit. Okay, there's your transformations right here. There are your transformations. 1, 2, 3, 4. We used them all. Okay? Not every time will you have to use all 4 transformations, but we did it all just so you can see them. Now we need to graph it. Where do we graph? How do we move? What do we start? Well, look at my transformations. My transformations told me to go, which way am I going to shift? It told me to shift which way? Well, let's underline it. It said we're going to go to the right 6, and it said we're going to go down 1. To the right 6 and down 1. To the right 6 and down 1. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down 1. That's where you're going to start. That's where the tip of your V is, your vertex. That's where you're going to go. Now, once you find your vertex, we can use slope. We can use the slope up here in the front. What does this say to do? This says to go down 1 to the right 4. Down 1 to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. But remember, you have to go both ways. If you're going to use slope, you just have to go both ways with it. So we're going to go down 1 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to look at a flat V. Now look at it. We have a negative, which means we're going to open downward. We're going to reflect. But it's very convenient. The sad part about this is this slope thing only works with absolute value. All right, let's try another problem. All right, again, I have a negative in front. So that's going to give me a vertical reflection. I have a 3. Now we're thinking about the absolute value. What's the absolute value of negative 3? It's a positive 3. So is 3 bigger than 1? Yes, it's bigger than 1. So that means we're going to have a vertical stretch. We're going to have a vertical stretch by a factor of 3. Okay, you got to tell me how much we're stretching by. All right, the next thing is we're in here. We're inside the absolute value, and we're still thinking opposite. So this says x plus 2, so we're thinking opposite. So the plus 2 kind of throws us off, but we're going to go the other way. We're going to go left 2. We're going to have a horizontal shift left 2 units. We're going to go left 2. And now we're at the back end. We have the plus 7. Now the plus 7 is going to tell us if we go up or down. And since it's a positive 7, we're going to go up 7. So we're going to have a vertical shift up 7 units. Okay? So how do we graph this? Where do we start? Well, let's think about what we said. We said we're going to go left 2 and up 7. That's going to tell you where to put your start, where you're going to be your vertex, where you're going to start your graph. So we're going to go left 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to go up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Somewhere on my graph, I'll be up there. Left 2, up 7. Now, what's the neat thing that we get to use? We get to use slope. Slope is right here. I've got negative 3, but we're going to treat it as negative 3 over 1 because slope is always a fraction. So this is a negative. It says go down 3 to the right 1. 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. Somewhere in there. We're going to go down 3 to the left 1. Down 3 to the left 1. I'm going to have a skinnier graph, but it's going to look something like that. Okay? That's how you graph. We're going to get our transformations and we're going to graph. So far, so good. Okay? What if I gave you a situation like this? What if I gave you the graph? If I give you the graph, can you write the equation? That's the tough part. All right, let's see. Where is my vertex? Where is my vertex? Well, I normally start at the origin. I normally start at the origin, but from the origin, I have gone what? I have gone left 2. All right, I have gone left 2 and down 1. Well, now we're still thinking opposite. When we go left and right, we think about opposite. So if I go left 2, how would I write that in my absolute value? Well, obviously you're going to start here. You're going to say y equals. If I go left 2, inside my absolute value, we're going to say x plus 2 because we're thinking the opposite. We said we went down 1. Down 1 would be a negative 1. Because my k value tells me go up or down. Inside the absolute value tells me if left or right. Okay? Now we try to find our slope. Well, obviously we're opening downward. we're going to have a negative. But let's think about this. We're going to go and find a point. There is a point that's on the graph, and there is my vertex. We're going to count 1, 2, 3 over 1. So we're down 3 to the right 1. And I don't need to put the 1 underneath. Optional, but you really don't need the 1 underneath even though it's part of your slope. Okay? That is your equation. Now that you had your equation and we've practiced, you could list your transformations. A vertical reflection, a stretch, a vertical stretch by a factor of 3, a horizontal shift, left 2, down 1. Let's try another one. All right, so we normally, here is my vertex. We normally start at the origin, okay? Obviously, we're going to start with y equals, okay? And we're going to say, I went to the left 2 again. I went left 2. And remember how we said we think opposite. So inside my absolute value, I went left 2. We're going to say x plus 2. I also went down 1. I still went down 1, so I would have minus 1. But this time we're opening up, so we're not going to have a negative. We're going to find a point on the graph. Here's a point, or we could go to this point. But we're going to count. We're going to say I went up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. And we don't need the 1 underneath. There's your equation. Find how much you started. We find out where the origin is and your vertex. Find out how much you changed from the origin. That's how you find what goes inside the absolute value and your back number. Okay? This would be a vertical stretch because it's bigger than 1. This is a horizontal shift 2. And this is a vertical shift up 1. This should give you enough tools to where you can attempt the worksheet. Okay? You're going to see the pattern, and the more you see things and the more practice, it's going to get easier for you. Once you grasp it, it's a pretty simple concept. Okay? If you have any questions, email us, let us know, we'll help you out. But you do the much as of the worksheet as you can. Good luck.